Welcome everyone to the Hurting Humanity channel. There is a hot mic story that is floating around, and anytime you hear the word hot mic, your brain should automatically register whatever you're about to see as being completely staged and orchestrated, especially when we get these hot mic moments from politicians that somehow make it into the media as if, of course, the media is actually doing journalism, which they're not. The media's job is to condition you, to conform you, to manipulate you. So they put these things out there like they're real. And I wanted to show you this quote unquote hot mic moment from Kamala Harris, who is sitting with Governor Whitmer, which, again, so strategically done as you're about to see. But the reason I'm showing you this is because they want you to see it. So then we have to look at these things and say, why do they want us to see these things? Why are they putting this on the news? And what they were putting in this clip you're about to see out for was to show you how she's really concerned and needs to focus and move ground among men. So they're showing you and they're already sowing seeds of doubt in everybody's mind about whether or not the election results will be real. And that's done by design because they're not real in the first place. People are waiting to find out if it's rigged or not for one side versus the other. It's rigged against everyone because they're not real. They're sowing seeds of doubt because they're expecting whoever loses this fake election to deny the outcome. They've been conditioning you with that since 2016. So they put this out. It is one of the worst acted things I've seen in a long time on the news. But I mean, I feel like I say that almost every day now because every time we see any of this stuff come through the news, it's completely fake. As if Kamala Harris and Governor Whitmer are just two normal people having a beer at the bar, right? And all of a sudden, as she mentions how, well, they really need to move ground among men, she looks up and notices a microphone above her head because she didn't know in the first place that she's on camera or there's microphones, as if any of these people actually mingle out in the public with us, which is part of the illusion. They love to make you think that they're out among us. They love to make you think that they're not hiding behind green screens, which they are. So this obviously gives the perception, oh, Kamala's just a regular person. Oh yeah, she's out at the bar with a governor and they're talking about what's going to happen in the election. What do you think you need to do to get better results because they want to convince you that your vote actually counts. And then they're going to convince you who you can blame. And that's exactly why Kamala Harris is mentioning about how, well, she needs to move ground fast with men.
Everyone's heard is that really good. Yeah.
Oh, we have microphones and I was listening to everything.
Oh,
I didn't realize that. Okay. So, well,
You'll
now you
bleep
tell
my
us.
F words.
We just told all the family secrets.
So that couldn't be more scripted. I mean, anybody who watches that and thinks that that is real probably watches TV shows like The Office and thinks that it's actually a documentary, right? You know, they have these shows now where they literally film it like a documentary and people watch it and it's fake, right? It's scripted, but they're thinking in their mind that it actually is real because they're filming it like it's real. Well, that's what they do with the news now. They film it like it's a television show like The Office is or something along those lines. So you gotta love how she immediately looked up. So they wanted you to hear that, right? They wanted you to hear that, and of course she puts her hand around. Oh, I didn't realize that. Yes, there's these two ladies who are talking about the struggle with men. Does that narrative sound familiar? Because that's really the narrative we're headed towards here. And her saying we just told the family secrets is just icing on the cake, right? Because really this is one big family, and Republicans who are civilians are not a part of it, and Democrats who are civilians are not a part of it. But if they realize that these people are all related by blood, and these are all bloodlines who are working to manipulate you, divide you, and conquer you, well, then this game that they're playing with everybody would be over very, very quickly. So just remember, before I get into the theory here about men and men being blamed, which is a very consistent theory that they use, just remember whenever the media releases something to you via hot mic, saying that it's hot mic, they want you to think what? They want you to think that, oops, they didn't want you to hear it. But the reality of the matter is they do want you to hear it. Kamala wanted you to hear it, which tells us there's going to be some type of psychological operation that is done with blaming men. Because remember, in communism, men are the enemy of communism. Weak men are the friend of communism. So planting seeds in your mind that, well, it's men who are voting for Trump. It's alpha males who are voting for Trump. These are all seeds that they want. And then they tell you it's a hot mic because, oops, they're not supposed to let you know, right? Just like the hot mics I've covered in the past with Biden, or even the hot mic with RFK, which is one of the funnier hot mics I've ever heard. I covered this months ago, now of course removed, but I covered this with RFK if you didn't see it, where RFK endorsed Donald Trump and they somehow, his son just happened to film this and put it up on his Twitter account. Oops, sorry, Dad. I didn't know it was a private conversation between you and Donald Trump. Well, of course, it wasn't a private conversation. It was staged, and it was staged so that Donald Trump could pretend in private so that you have this illusion in your mind that he's anti-magic potion, because Trump obviously realized that Operation Warp Speed and those things didn't go the way the globalists expected. There was too much pushback, especially amongst conservatives. A lot of people who were MAGA ended up coming out of her and waking up to the left-right paradigm because of the magic potion. So they staged this with Donald Trump and RFK to make it look like, oh, they were privately talking. See, Trump behind the scenes, behind closed doors, he's anti-magic potion. He's not really for it because some leaked footage with RFK that they deliberately staged showed us, or Q told us, right?
I agree with you, man. Something's wrong with that whole system. Yeah. And, and it's the doctors you find. Remember I said I want to do small doses. Small doses. When you feed a baby, Bobby, a vaccination that has like 38 different vaccines, and it looks like it's meant for a horse, not a 10-pound or 20-pound baby. It looks like you should be giving a horse this. And do you ever see the size of it? Right? It's this massive. And then you see the baby all of a sudden starting to change radically. I've seen it too many times. And then you hear that it doesn't have an impact, right? But you and I talked about that a long time ago. And anyway.
So these things we're seeing more and more in this psychological war that we're in. We're seeing more and more of these things that they say hot mic, because once they deem it hot mic, your brain automatically says, oh, they don't want me to hear this. But the reality is that they do, and it validates what they're saying in those statements more. And RFK is another one of these frauds who tries to align himself now with conspiracies and people like me and you, who is on the record as saying that anybody who's a climate change denier should be thrown in prison, right?
Be in jail. I think they should be enjoying 3 hots and a cot at The Hague with all the other war criminals who are there.
What about politicians, people who deny, who express skepticism?
I think they're selling out the public trust. And, I think those guys who are doing the Koch brothers bidding and who are against all the evidence of the rational mind are saying that global warming doesn't exist, that they are contemptible human beings, and that, I wish that there were a law you could punish them under.
But really, anybody who's denying climate change and understands weather modification knows that these psychopaths are the ones who should be thrown in prison for murdering people with man-made weather events. So you would think things like RFK, things like Kamala with these leaks, and things like Trump showing up at the Al Smith dinner with all these Democrats, you would think that people would start saying to themselves, all right, why are they all hanging out together? But then at the same time, every time they're in front of a microphone, they're talking about how dangerous the other political civilians are. Or they're talking about how these people, not the president, these people are a threat to democracy, right? You'd think that their brain would start working and saying to, that's a little suspicious. I mean, if these people try to throw me in jail, I wouldn't be hanging out with them. Maybe this is a conspiracy. Because by definition, if you look up the word conspire, okay, conspire, scroll down and look, seem to be working together to bring about a particular result, typically to someone's detriment, okay? These people are trying to bring about a particular result, which is global communism, which is AI governance. Through AI governance, global communism, the same thing I keep talking about with the talking points of the World Economic Forum, of the Bilderberg. These are the talking points, the AI governance, right? The alt-right media doesn't tell their audience any of the stuff going on. They try to throw words at them like smart city. They never connect the dots with how technology is going to be the instrument to implement global communism. That's how everyone's going to be connected, because everyone has to be connected for the whole thing to work. That's why they want your bank accounts connected digitally. That's why they want your ID connected digitally. Everything you say and do, connected digitally. They don't want you to be able to live without having technology in you / on you to start. So when you see the definition of conspire and you say, well, they're trying to bring about a particular result, global communism, and whose detriment is it to? It's to everyone's detriment. It's not just Democrats. It's not just Republicans. It's them working together against humanity, civilians. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. It doesn't matter what your gender is. You are a slave to them in their minds. And they're proving to you how much they think of you right now by how they're acting out in public. But people are so gaslit they can't even figure it out. So when we look at some of the stories that are out there in regards to men, right? Because we go back to that theme, Kamala Harris mentioning men. Do not forget, it is very important to remember that in a communist society, okay? And if you don't get what that means, woke is communism. It's the same exact thing. They've repackaged communism that we all heard about, how dangerous, how bad it was, and they've repackaged it to woke and love and community. It's the same exact thing. If you read the Communist Manifesto, if you study communism and what they've always tried to implement, this is it. It's called woke. And they have celebrities marketing to people to make them think that it's cool, that it's accepting, right? So what they're doing here is manufacturing weak men. And if Kamala Harris is going to talk about how men aren't going to vote for her, well, if suddenly Kamala Harris, we're told, has won this election, most men out there are going to deny it, aren't they? And if we're told, of course, that Donald Trump has won the election, well, who are all the Democrats going to blame? Men, right? How about this theme of men that we've heard over the last 4 years or so? This massive gender gap. Oh, how certain women don't want to date Republican men. How magic potioned men don't want to date women who have taken the magic potion. This is all part of it. And in some ways, it ties even into depopulation because men and women are not dating. They're not meeting. They're not marrying. They're pretty much doing everything digitally. And in a communist society, weak men thrive. Real men don't. And they want you to think of these terms like alpha male because they've made it cringy. They've made just what was once normal, being a man, normal. They've turned it into this MAGA alpha male thing, and it is cringy. I see it all the time, how these guys act and behave. It's embarrassing. It's beyond embarrassing. They act alpha male, but yet they're still getting their nails manicured and stuff like that, right? So they want you to have this perception of what an alpha male is. But the reality of the matter is this. Weak people lean towards socialisms. They lean towards communism. They don't ask themselves what is right. Their mindset is always, what will everyone think is right? What do I say here so that people accept me, so that people think that I'm saying or doing the right thing? And that's what their motivation is based off of, on how they actually perceive the things that are going on around them. When men become weak, more and more people become dependent on government. And that's what you're watching around us right now. Now you could look at it and you could say, well, what do you mean men weak? I mean, are they supposed to lift weights? Are they supposed, how do you define it in today's world, right? Because it has become so cringy. I talk about a lot of these churches that, a lot of people will send me the videos, be like, hey, is this church okay? And I see it, I just cringe. I cringe when I see Hillsong, when I see these, groomed men who are on stage and they're more interested in putting on a concert than they are literally just reading the Word of God. Because I've always looked at it and I've said, why don't we just read the Bible? I get it. So, you want an interpretation. You want the pastor to tell you what he thinks. Now we're at a point where church has become a concert for people. They go there and everybody thinks they're a country singer. I mean, it's beyond cringy. So how do you define an alpha male? Well, an alpha male is somebody that's not going to allow the government to get inside the walls of their home. They're not going to allow the government to tell them what they should eat and how much air condition they should use, or whether or not they're allowed to chop wood to put on a fireplace to provide heat for their family because of their carbon emissions. Real men stand against those things, but they've warped the perception of what a real man is. And most people out there think that it has something to do with being macho, right? Being an alpha male. These are all things they've done by design. So those stories right there, that deliberate leak has a big potential with what's coming after that Madison Square Garden rally. That entire thing was fake. It was staged. It was a charade, right? And what'd you see on stage? You saw a lot of alpha male, quote unquote, the stereotype that they're creating now for what a man is, right? An alpha male is going on stage, screaming racial things, screaming USA, chanting USA, right? All these things are things that they're now building into people's minds. And they're building something in all of our minds, and they have been for a while now, about men being the enemy. And I'm not saying that for my own sake, because I couldn't care less how people perceive me. They are sowing seeds. And they're sowing seeds with some of these other stories that are out there at the same time, right? As of me recording this, early ballots burned in suspected attacks in Washington and Oregon. Another story, thousands of suspected fraudulent voter applications intercepted in Lancaster County. So they're putting the stories out already about how many Republicans have already gone and written in their ballots, how many have mailed in their ballots. That's a big part of this. It's a big part of this because that gets us transferred from, oh, wait a minute, well, the mail-in ballots, oh, okay, well, that could be corrupted. And then you go, well, wait a minute, how come in California they're not even asking for an ID then if you go and vote? Because they want to eliminate the system, because it all goes back to that word conspire. Evil people working together to bring about a particular result, typically to someone's detriment. And the digital ID is the thing that is the detriment to all of us, because it is not like just having a PayPal account. It is an account that has everything in it. You've heard them talk about it. It'll have your status if you have a certain something injected in your body. It'll have your birth certificate. It'll have your social, everything will be in here, right? But then what they fail to tell you is that when they start implementing more carbon laws, you know, the things that RFK wants in place, when they start implementing those things more and more, which is coming as they hit us with weaponized weather, they're going to start telling you, well, wait a minute, you can only buy, you know, if we have to limit our carbon emissions, most of these people don't have a clue what that means. So they go, oh, okay, what, get an electric car? And even that is giving up your freedoms. But no, it's more than that. Leaving your home is carbon emissions. You get it yet? You were just locked down for a few years. They were testing you out to see if you would follow protocol or not. So all of these stories out there are to prepare you for a digital footprint, a digital identity, and then to start working in carbon laws and carbon emissions. And you might say, well, what is that? Like at 2070, I'll be dead. Try 2030. What do you think Agenda 2030 is? What do you think the goals are for Agenda 2030? To have this in place first, let people get desensitized for a year or two and say people like me are crazy conspiracy nuts. See, nothing's changed. It's easier. I have a digital ID now. And then suddenly, well, oh, we're getting hit with more and more weather problems. We really have to change. Scientists tell us we really have to change the way that we live. I mean, it comes down to us. You know, there's no future unless we help pave the way. And by paving the way, it means that we need to lock ourselves inside. We need to stop eating meat because we can't have healthy, you know, well-thinking human beings out there. We need everybody to eat things that we produce in a petri dish, and one thing after the next thing after the next thing. That is the whole point of this immigration psyop. So all of these stories you're going to hear about who voted illegally, who's setting ballot boxes on fire, who's sending in fraudulent voter applications, story after story after story. And you could go right back to what I started this video with, that hot mic, right? So my thing is we need to move ground among men. So what is that telling us? What are they trying to tell us via hot mic? That Kamala's nervous, right? As if the election's actually real. That's what's funniest about all of it. But they're trying to portray that Kamala's nervous. And she's nervous because men don't seem interested in voting for her. Why? Oh, well, because apparently men are racist. Men are sexist. Men are the enemy of the state. And a lot of this psyop that comes out of the fake election is going to have to do with making men, alpha male, quote unquote, men, which doesn't really exist. It's another stereotype, like I said, that they've created, but making them the enemy, holding them accountable, linking Christians up with these certain types of men that are getting stereotyped. They're building out a new stereotype, and men are going to take a lot of the blame for whatever comes. Because if they put Trump in, they'll say it's all these men. They'll give you all these fake data points in the news where they say, oh, well, the data shows that, 80% of people that voted for Trump were men. Oh, and they didn't vote for Kamala because they're sexist, right? They continue to sow division among us. They continue to show distrust among the election and the actual voting, which, again, the vote isn't real. It's really becoming difficult to explain this to people. Let me make it clear, because people go, oh, so you must be a Kamala. Oh, you must be a so-and-so supporter. They don't seem to get it. It's not real, okay? It's not. The vote itself isn't real. They pick somebody ahead of time, and they put them in, okay? They already know who's going to win this fake election. It's your voting You're complying to it is what they need. And then sucking you in psychologically so that you start allowing law changes. You start allowing free speech to be removed because you're now affiliated with a party instead of being all of us affiliated as civilians against a government that's supposed to be working for us, who aren't working for us, who have gone completely rogue, right? So hot mic, ladies and gentlemen, hot mic take they want you to hear. They put maybe two of the biggest sexists from the other perspective that if you want to believe that these things are even real, I mean, these stereotypes that they create, but they put two of the worst possible and then probably the most loathed female politicians other than Hillary Clinton. They put them at a bar together as if Kamala is out at a bar having a beer, regular person, right? This all builds into the psyop because people just can't grasp the fact that these people are not like us. They don't live like us. They don't even live among us. And then, oops, oh my goodness, I didn't know there was a boom mic over my head at a bar. The whole time I was completely oblivious to it while I was out here with a governor. While there's probably, if I was out in public, there'd be like 900 Secret Service people there to protect the both of them from civilians or from, anything happening to them, even though we know nothing will happen to them because they're completely protected. They won't even let somebody with a cell phone probably get into these places, but somehow a camera crew, is it somebody with a cell phone we're supposed to believe, actually got in there, got a hot mic. Okay, the only way they would be able to catch what they say is probably with a boom mic. And the fact that it immediately circulates on Fox News tells you that they want this out there. Anything that's a hot mic take is the exact opposite. So look at the hot mic and say, what are they trying to get me to see that I'm not supposed to see? Because that's the only point of this psychological op. And keep an eye on these voters' stories because they're going to build. They're already building in people's minds, right? People are already, and they're trying to get it, everything's getting more and more narrow. Right? They want you to focus in on specific states. Then in these specific states, they're going to get you to focus on specific counties. I mean, they're going to make this thing into like as if it comes down to you or your neighbor voting. And then, of course, holding people accountable, holding people to blame. Are we going to blame men? Well, one way or the other, they're going to blame men for it. Of course they are. Right? You hear the conservatives blaming these men who are men for Kamala Harris. I mean, the cringiest stuff. On both sides, it's cringy. I mean, it's just beyond cringy on both sides, watching how these people actually are sucked into this. I read the comments. I see the people who come to my videos. They don't have the slightest clue. They're like, you're not a part. You don't understand the Q drops. And I'm just like, you don't seem to understand that the government built Q because of channels like mine. That's what they created it for during that event that happened at the pizza place. They literally had to build a psyop to get everybody off the trail of truth and get them sucked back into thinking that Donald Trump, he isn't one of them. He's actually trying to expose the pizza place. And then everybody's forgotten about that now, right? Because in the beginning with the Q stuff, it was all based around that, about the pizza. But they've led you into different directions. RFK, John F. Kennedy, all these people are alive. They're behind the scenes. Trump is with them. They switched out his vac. The stuff they believe is incredible. They don't even realize how deep in the psychosis they are. They're worse, just as bad as the other side. The other side is completely oblivious. There's no critical thinking at all. The conservatives think that they're awake to this stuff, and they comment like, you don't understand the Q drops. I don't understand the Q drops. What I understand about Q is that around 2016, when the fake election was occurring, millions of views per video were going up by channels like mine and about 20 other channels, which are all wiped off the internet, okay? You can't find them on this platform, at least. And the majority of those people gave up uploading content because it just became too frustrating every time they uploaded content. But they built it out. Why did they build it out? Because all of us in agreement back then were talking about the left-right being control. There wasn't this MAGA movement that is built into what it is now. People were actually saying, they're both frauds. They're all frauds. But Trump has tickled their ears for 8 years. He said everything that they want to hear. So instead of a revolution happening, all of these people have then got shifted into the Republican Party. And they think that by voting for these people, that change is coming and they're going to get led like sheep to slaughter. Cattle to slaughter. That's what's coming out of all of this. So keep an eye on the psyops. They are all over the place, especially the hot mic takes. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless all of you and your families, as always.